Welcome to Third Culture Leaders in Dubai. We have some amazing guests for you. Check out this episode and I hope you enjoy. I just finished a wonderful conversation with Dunya Al Hashar.
My Arab side would mostly come off as, just penalizing you.
Dunya is an amazing person, a single mother raising her children here in the UAE. What an incredible story of a person who has German and Emirati heritage.
Different backgrounds, being in a school where majority, over 95% of the students are Emirati. It is so different, and I am so different from them.
And is working at the Museum of the Future. Taking all of these cultural experiences and incorporating that into her work was a wonderful conversation that we shared. I hope you enjoy it too. Dunya, so thank you so much for coming on Third Culture Leaders podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So there's so many things that I'm excited to get into with you. I generally like to ask people, there's so many things that we can talk about in terms of your intro, but how would you introduce yourself today?
Oh boy. In the context of the premise of the podcast, or just generally how I would introduce myself in a room?
Yeah, just generally, because I think that's great that you ask that question, because sometimes you're in a business meeting or you're at a family event or whatever. But I find sometimes it's helpful to start the conversation with how you would introduce yourself.
Right. So I am Dunya Al Hashar. I am Emirati German. I'm 37 years old. I am a mom to two awesome girls. And for a living, I manage events. I work currently at the Museum of the Future. And some of the things that I like to do that I feel are expressive of who I am really is anything to do with water. So I do a lot of sports activities, but anything from paddle boarding to wake surfing. I do that with my best friends and my daughters. If it's a run on the beach, anything where I am close to water really is a reflection of what I like to do.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love the water as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I have a healthy maybe respect is the right word. I'm scared of the water as well as I love being in the water.
Accurate. So when you're paddle boarding, right? So my best friend and I regularly go all the way into the water. We'll bring our coffee with us, and we'll just sit there and just talk
paddle
all things.
Boarding?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
We'll go all the way up to Burj Khalifa in Dubai, and we'll put our coffee mugs on each of our boards. And we're not really doing it because it's an exercise. We're just trying to get away from the world and just talk about mommy duties and the husbands and men in our lives that are getting on our nerves, and and what we plan to do on the weekend. But definitely don't look down. And don't go obviously on a day where the waters are crazy, because very much so respect for the ocean. I hear you on that.
Are you a good swimmer then?
I am an excellent swimmer, yes.
Yeah?
I am.
Okay. Did you swim as a kid?
Oh boy, here we go. There's a story here. I don't know if you're ready for it. So my mom has a very different teaching method than my dad does. My dad's about yeah, sure, try it out. My mom is I will throw you in the middle of the pool type teacher.
Okay.
I remember there was this one day where my mom was just running around all over Dubai, just trying to do the last minute shopping before we went back home to Germany for the summer, right? And I can swear to you, I was in a two-piece bathing suit all day in the back of a car, just super excited to get on a plane by the end of this day.
Yeah.
And by the next morning, I'm now in Germany with my mom, still in my two-piece, ready to go into the water. And we go to the pool, my grandmother's with us, and she's like, all right, well, get in there. And it hits me, wait a minute, I don't know how to swim. I know how to play around the water.
How old are you at this point?
Probably 5, maybe,
Okay.
5 or 6. And then absolutely she throws me right in the deep end. And she instructs the lifeguard to not come and get me.
Okay.
And I eventually make it to the edge of the pool.
Yeah.
And I get out of the pool and I don't go back in the pool again. Period. For the rest of the day. And I was super mad at her. And then the following day we get back, obviously we get back to my grandmother's house. And then the following day my grandma's like, hey, do you want to try and go to the pool again? And I was like, yeah, but just don't bring her though. And then we went back and the fear was gone. And, I tried it out back and forth a few times and there were a few kids around. And yeah, ever since then, you can't keep me out of the water.
Nice. Did
Yeah.
you do the same for your daughters?
I sure did not.
Okay.
Well, actually, let me see. What did I do with them? Well, as soon as I could get them in the water, I did. Like, I take them regularly paddle boarding with me too. I'll have like one sat in front or another one get her own as well. Now that they're older, they're 13 and 9, so they can do more things on their own without me. But yeah, no, as soon as I could, I got them in the water. And they obviously have like teachers at school and things like that take them through it. But yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like, on Third Culture Leaders, we of course talk about this kind of rich mix of cultures that folks have gone through. What was it like in terms of having this heritage of German heritage and Emirati heritage?
Oh boy, it's such a good question, like on so many levels, and I'll tell you why. Because people would assume now, no, people are able to see this for anyone that is just listening to this. So I am part black, part white. And so people have an assumption that, if my mother is white, then maybe I would have experienced bullying or racism or anything in Germany. On the contrary, I was celebrated. My grandmother would not shut up about my beautiful curly hair and my sun-kissed like skin and would just
Awesome.
show me off to anybody that was around, and they're like, and they would always like look forward to me coming over in the summer and just how beautifully I spoke and everything else. And so on that end, and then there was the whole teaching piece. It was a very different learning experience of anything when I was in Germany versus in the UAE. Just in terms of the communication styles of like two
Like at
different.
school?
No, just
At home?
family.
Yeah.
How my grandmother on my mom's side would teach me something versus my grandmother on my father's side would teach me something. Difference in cultures. So my Arab side would mostly come off as, just penalizing you for things as opposed to saying, hey, let's go back to this step by step. Take me through your thinking process of how you got here and then stopping you, which is what my German grandmother would do.
Right.
And would stop me at the point where, okay, this is where you went wrong. This is what we need to do next time. Not to say
Interesting.
that one is right and one is wrong. They both, create or shape a person and, who they become very differently.
Yes.
But also helps you, like when you grow up, you learn to appreciate that when you deal with people that have only grown up in either culture, you
Yeah.
appreciate that, oh, that's where that comes from. That's where either that frustration or that type of thinking comes from. But it also helps you as an adult when you can see both.
Absolutely.
And in a situation, you learn how to, I guess, decide which side you want to use now for this particular situation.
So do you know how to speak both languages?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I find, I have like an elementary understanding of Tamil, and I can read like baby books. I can't read
Okay.
everything, and I can write like, amma, appa, which is like mom, dad, and like
Right.
basic things.
Right,
But I learned the language from my grandma.
right.
And of course, it's not just about the words, but the way that you comprehend things, as
Right.
as you shared as well. So I find it so remarkable, the different ways that you can think and how you can incorporate that in your life.
Yeah.
What about your daughters? Do they speak
Oh
different
yeah, absolutely. They
languages?
speak all languages, all the 3 languages. But actually, I want to come back to the thinking bit just really quick there.
Sure.
I think the first time I was aware that my thinking was different was an Arabic teacher at school who said to me that my writing style when I was like, writing something expressive, right? And whatever it was, an essay or something. And she said, I don't recognize it. It sounds like you are speaking a different language.
Oh, interesting.
And that is because, like, I would go into, because literally what my brain does, so the main language that was always spoken at home is English, right? Because obviously my dad barely speaks any German, my mom barely speaks any Arabic, so they communicated in English. And so my thinking was in English, and I would translate my thinking to Arabic, and then I would write the essays in Arabic.
Right.
And it was, again, when you're raised in a different culture and then you translate that in a different language, it actually feels foreign. And in that moment, I felt special. Because I'd never known that this is what I did. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, I knew subconsciously, I guess, on some level, right? But didn't actually know that this is something that made me different. And back when I was growing up, I'm sure you probably experienced this too. Different was not, cool and good like it is now.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Whereas, back then it was something that you didn't want to be too proud of. And that moment and that conversation with that particular teacher, because she like pulled me aside and had a conversation with me just to say like how fascinated she was at the kind of writing that I like provided her with. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because
It's great to have guides like that, especially when they're teachers. Sometimes you don't have the greatest teachers, but
yep,
some teachers can really help guide you on the right path and identify something beautiful inside you, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really challenging when I first got to Winnipeg. I was born in the UK and got to Winnipeg, and I remember there was a friend of mine who's still a friend. He came from Ireland, and we
Wait, sorry, how long have you known this friend?
so since I was seven,
Very
no, yeah,
cool.
7, 8, yeah, yeah.
I I no, I don't have any friends still from when I was 7 or 8. It's
Oh,
probably
really?
like
Okay.
cousins, but that's really, really cool. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. And so he came from Ireland, and I still had my British accent at that
I was gonna
time.
say, where did that go?
Yeah, all
Yeah.
gone.
Okay. Okay.
Unfortunately, I
Or
don't know, or
fortunately, I don't know.
fortunately,
Right.
depending on where you're coming from. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the teachers introduced us, and the first thing, his name is Tig. The first thing Tig said to me is, "Do you know what your people have done to my people?" And I honestly had no idea who he was talking about. Um, even obviously there
Right.
was like a big, like crazy situation with England and Ireland and,
Sure.
all of that stuff.
Yes.
But I was 7 and, was oblivious to it. But I also didn't know, was he talking about my Tamil heritage? Like, did Tamil people do something to him? Or who was he talking about,
Sorry, but
right?
at that age, what did you identify as at 7? Because I know what I identified as. What did you identify as?
I don't even think I was thinking about that. I
Like, did
was
did
like,
you think of yourself as a brown person, as a person that
brown,
is from the
brown,
UK?
yes.
As okay,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
right, right.
A brown person
So that
with,
was your initial thought then?
that was my initial thought.
Yes.
And it was the first time that I realized I had no idea who I was, and people didn't have any idea who I was.
That is a
It
scary place
was the
to be
first time
in.
I was confused.
Yeah.
So in Winnipeg, they have this beautiful event called Folklorama, and Folklorama is a place where they call them pavilions, but it's like schools or auditoriums, and each culture would come and have like their food, dancing, food and drink, and they would have an adult ambassador, male and female, and youth ambassadors, male and female, and so we would go to these different pavilions. They would have a Filipino pavilion, Egyptian pavilion, Ukrainian pavilion, etc. And everyone would celebrate their culture. And for me, it was really helpful because it helped me understand how to show up as a Canadian. Because
Interesting.
for us in Canada, it's like you are Ukrainian Canadian, Tamil Canadian, Ethiopian Canadian, etc. And that was really powerful for me, that I could embrace my heritage and also be intertwined into this new place. Yeah,
I love that for you. Do you have siblings, by the way?
a brother and sister. Yeah,
Older,
yeah,
younger?
both younger.
Both
Yeah,
younger. Okay.
yeah.
So
What about you?
I'm an only child.
Okay.
My parents yeah, my parents divorced when I was quite young, but my dad's remarried. So I have siblings from other parents, if you will, or my parents' other partners.
Yeah.
But I am so half brothers and sisters, but I'm an only child. Yeah, I only ask that to because there's a lot of times where for lack of better words, I felt confused and alone about what it was that I was. You know,
Right.
was I Arab? Was I German? Was I this new mesh that is in between? And I kind of hoped that I had siblings around that I could, I guess, share my concerns with, or that maybe would help me solidify exactly what it is that I was.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was just curious if you
I
had any of that with your siblings.
I didn't have that. They were much younger.
Mm,
But in addition to that, I was just away. My parents sent me to live with my grandparents,
mm,
different aunts. So I didn't have anyone like that. My cousins were there, but they didn't have the same experiences I did.
gotcha.
So it was a lot of figuring things out on your own. But I think, as a third culture kid, as you mentioned, you use your German thinking or Emirati thinking in the kind of right situation, but learning what situation is going to be best for this kind of thinking
That part.
is, growing up and figuring that out.
Mm-hmm.
So, in hindsight, it
Mm.
was enriching, but at that time, it was a lot of crying nights, confused nights, trying to figure things out. So I think, a lot of people end up being quiet because you're
Mm.
thinking in your head and you don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to react in that situation. But as a result, you're also very observant. Have you
Yes.
found that as well?
Very much so agree with
Yeah.
everything that you're saying right now. Yes.
Yeah.
I funny example. So, because my dad wanted me to become a lot more comfortable. So, here's the thing, until, like I mentioned to you the other day, until I was in the fourth grade, I spoke three languages in one sentence, and it was hard for me to have friends or make friends. And so, that introspection that you were just referring to, when my dad eventually moved me to an all government girls' school, because he wanted me to, be a lot more comfortable with my Arabic speaking and all my Arabic reading and all the things. I spent a lot of time observing the culture, because it was a culture shock. Because I'm, in this household of, different backgrounds, being in a school where majority, over 95% of the students are Emirati. It is so different, and I am so different from them. It
Mm.
is like, it takes you a while to figure out, okay, who do I think I connect with? And also, you feel like such an imposter,
Mm.
right? I remember having teachers, Emirati teachers, that would speak to me in an Egyptian accent. And the thing is, my name is not a standard Emirati Arab girl name. My
Mm.
dad gets very creative with his girl names. My other sister also has a very interesting name. But it is known as a more Egyptian name.
Oh, I
And
see.
so when I would be introduced in class, they would start talking to me in in an Egyptian accent. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
why are you, no, actually, I'd be like, why are you talking to me like that? And they're like, oh, where are you from? And I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm Emirati, and I'm talking to you with an Emirati Arab accent.
Yes.
And there are teachers that did that for years, really. And,
Interesting.
it just tells you so many things, so many things. But yes, I became like very much, I didn't have the 20 friends around. I
Mm.
was the cool kid because I was the one that could speak the additional language. Like, people would actually come into class and point at me. They'd be like, her.
Oh, wow.
She's the one whose mother is English. It was English. It was
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
German or whatever. It was some kind of European, right? So it was
Yeah.
English. And they'd come to me. They'd be like, say something in German. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that, but sure. But
How
that's
did that
why,
make you feel when they
I
did
mean,
that?
on display, but in some ways, kind of accepted,
Mm.
because I wasn't shunned on, or I wasn't,
Right.
you know what I mean, bullied for it or anything. So I say that to say these are probably, people that liked me, but they were not friends or not anyone that I could trust on that level.
Mm.
And I think until I graduated high school, I probably had like close friends, maybe three, that I like stuck with.
Mm.
But yes, the observing of the culture, the language, the style, the way of thinking, whether it was my teacher or other students, like, just learned very much, very much.
Mm.
Hmm.
So did you do university here or
Yes, I
yeah.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what did you study in university?
So my degree is in marketing, business marketing. I have a
Okay,
bachelor's in
nice.
business marketing. Yeah.
Did you What drew you to that kind of field?
Let's see. So this is another funny story. The year, well, back in my day, the year that you graduated, right? They had a meeting with all of the Emirati students saying, regardless of what school you were in, private or government, they
Okay.
would bring all the Emirati students to like a forum type situation where you had all of these professionals talking to you about the kind of jobs that the government needed and the jobs that the government didn't need. So, really, essentially, I initially wanted to be either a psychologist. Remember, there was a summer where I wanted to be a butcher, but a
Okay.
psychologist or a lawyer.
Okay.
Now, they already said that we have too many psychologists in the country. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like a checklist of things, and this is not what we needed. I was like, damn it. Okay, all
Okay.
right, so that's out the window. And then they said, they do need lawyers. I was like, great. But then I found out you had to learn so much about religion and Islam, and that you would have to do it in Arabic, whereas all I saw was like Law and Order on TV. And
Right.
that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be in a suit. I didn't want to, I was like,
Yeah.
maybe that's not for me either. So they initially do like a foundation year, right?
Okay.
And within that year, you try to figure out, I guess, what it is that you want to do or what you want to major in. And then just, marketing felt like the right fit because they give you like a little bit, a taste of each one of the courses that you could be taking once you've majored in that particular
Right. Right.
area. And so, yeah, marketing just felt like a good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to study law. I
Mm-hmm.
did my Bachelor of Arts and then just got into business. My dad had his first of three heart attacks, and so I went off to Bangladesh.
So sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay,
Yeah.
generally speaking now. But yeah, so after I finished my undergrad, I went to go work abroad. I did a bit of studying there as well, but the reason why I asked is to see if your experiences with multicultures
Mm.
had an effect on your choice in terms of your career. It didn't really for me to
Yeah.
be quite honest, but
Mm.
I thought I'd ask.
No, no, I don't think it did. And to be honest, I'm really grateful that I am able to work in a field that I genuinely enjoy. Because
Yeah.
it would be awful to be doing a job where, at the end of the day, like if it sucks, at least you enjoy it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like you love it, right?
Yes.
And I work all kinds of hours being in events. So I don't know if I mentioned, but yes, I do. Head up events at the museum, and it doesn't matter the hour. And obviously I'm a mom too, and all of these things intertwined takes up a lot of your energy and a lot of your time. But yeah, I would hate to be doing something that I didn't actually enjoy at the end of the day. If I was coming home at like 2 a.m., I could not do it. I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. No.
So what's it like at the museum? I mean, probably for a lot of people watching, they see all the ads
Mm-hmm.
about it, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely stunning in terms of the shape, so unique.
Mm.
What's it like working there?
So I will say that before the museum, I was working with Expo 2020, and I remember I had this gap year where I was still trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do, and I had a few, jobs in between and things, and there was this one day where I was driving on Sheikh Zayed Road and I looked at the building and I was like, I would love to work at this space, right? In any capacity. And I kept manifesting that, kept picturing what like a corner office would look like. I don't have a corner office, just want to be clear.
Not yet. Not
I
yet,
mean,
right?
I don't think I even want to anymore.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
just the easiest way for me to picture it. And I think it was about a year after I'd submitted my initial application that I finally landed the job. And I've been with the team now for over a year. And it's not one of these places where like I'm on vacation, I come back to work and I'm like experiencing, what is it, post vacation blues or something.
Right.
I love walking. I love driving into the building. I love walking in and seeing everybody's smiles. And I work with a great team. I report to wonderful like leaders, from, my direct line manager to the director of the museum. And it is such an empowering space. I never feel like I need to jump through hoops or just ask for too many approvals for things. Like if you believe in something, you come and you talk about it and they're like, yeah, cool, run with it.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, it's a dynamic group of people, a lot to learn from, and thoroughly enjoy what I do.
So, So the museum is an amazing place because so many people come to visit the museum, and I've actually never been inside.
When I
My
tell you the number of people that tell me that every
oh
day,
yeah,
because I meet clients every day to come and look at our event spaces, right,
yeah.
for potential events, and they're always just so surprised at everything. I'm like, have you never been here? But you've considered hosting an event here. It's crazy to me, crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my kids went.
Oh, nice.
My wife and my kids and my brother went, and they got scared though in the elevator.
Which one?
I guess it was trying to be like a time capsule
Yeah,
or
that's the
something like
first
that.
elevator. It's a really big elevator.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think they got freaked out. Maybe it shakes, or I can't remember what my wife said, but they said they got scared, but they loved it, like, going through the museum and stuff. Yeah,
Good, good. Yeah, you need to
yeah,
tell me more about their experience after.
yeah, yeah.
I'd love to hear the feedback and share it with the guys. So yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. But and I know you're also doing emceeing and
Mm-hmm.
other events.
Hmm.
What is it like, in terms of the events and connecting with different people here in Dubai? I'm curious because I see when I come here to visit,
Mm-hmm.
it is very multicultural.
Hmm.
There's so many different people coming here, and also different people working. When I go to different organizations, I see
Mm.
that. How has that been, and how has your upbringing helped you with that?
Oh, so I will say the first thing that came to mind when you said that was that I always feel a responsibility in every room I walk into, especially during events, that I'm not just representing myself as Dunya. I'm always representing myself as Dunya, but also representing Emiratis. That's the first thought. I don't feel that strongly about representing myself as being part Emirati, part German, more so Emirati. But also, it makes it, people are usually surprised, right? So I don't normally wear abaya and shayla unless I'm requested to, or if I'm in a government building or anything, or a government event or something of that sort. But generally, I'm just more, I guess, dressed professionally, right? And so when people are having a conversation with me, yes, I feel that sense of responsibility to show up as an Emirati, but they don't know they're talking to an Emirati. And when they do eventually find out, it will be something about, where are you from? Or if they know, or if I turn around and I speak to somebody that I know in the room in Arabic, they'll be surprised. And when I tell them I'm Emirati, the whole dynamic of the conversation shifts and they're pleasantly surprised, yes, but then they have so many questions. And I've learned that that is just a beautiful space to continue to build on relationships. It helps people, like, it brings their guard down, and they're just so inquisitive and they want to know more, and they immediately feel more comfortable with you because they seem to know, something more personal about you. And also because I don't come across as, firm, abrasive, Emirati, all these things, which, to be fair, I mean, most Germans come across that way too. So neither here nor there, but maybe that's just my personality. But no, a lot of people don't expect that after they've met me, and it has definitely been. I think a positive to have both, and you present yourself as 3 dimensional, whatever, 4 dimensional, as opposed to just a flat line. That is just at an event and just trying to network.
Do you have a sense of how your kids identify themselves?
Do I have a sense of how they identify themselves? I will say I very much encourage them to be all that they feel that they are. And that changes at different parts of their life, at different ages. And I'm always encouraging the questioning of, what I did like last year, last term. Is that still who I am right now? And I guess I'm more focused on who they are as opposed to the different nationalities, that I guess I don't want them to feel that sense of confusion, I guess, that I did. And I want
Right.
them to focus on what is more important, that is intrinsically, who are you and what are you trying to bring to the world and to the table.
Mm.
And I wish someone had spoken to me in that sense. I feel I was too wrapped up in the, I have a black Arab dad and a white German mom, and what does that mean for me? Where I don't think it was until like my adult years, maybe or early into college, where I was starting to define who it is, that I am and what, I want to bring to the world.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that.
Mm.
We have International Day at my kids' school, and
Oh boy, let's hear it.
my I'm Tamil and my wife is half Russian, half Ukrainian,
Okay.
and so they ask the kids, how they want to dress and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
etc.
We have those conversations too. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
and so my daughter typically picks Tamil because she likes the saris or like
Right.
langa or whatever she's going to be wearing.
Yeah.
But last year, even though she dressed that way, she sang a Russian song for the talent competition or whatever.
I love that.
I think it's
I
awesome
love
too.
her.
Yes, yeah.
Sophia, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Sophia.
Okay.
And my son, and I've been there 2 years when they've asked them that when the in front of the teacher, and when they ask my son, he always says, "I'm none of those things. I'm Canadian," which I think is remarkable, right? And so
Yeah.
he always wants to have the Canadian maple leaf flag with him.
Right.
So I really appreciate you sharing that because I think we do, of course, want them to know their culture so
Mm-hmm.
that they can make their choice, but
Mm.
definitely don't want to pressure them into a certain way, right? They're going to go on their own
Yeah,
journey.
yeah. Just this summer, I took both my daughters to Germany, right? And one of them came back able to speak German so well that I can't say anything about my life around them anymore with her picking it up, without her picking it up. Whereas the other one is just meh, I'm here, I'll pick up the 10 words or whatever. I'm going to enjoy the culture and have a good time, but this
Yeah.
really isn't like my thing.
Yeah.
And yes, I would love for them both to be as, excited about the culture and learning the language and all the things, but they are their own people. And, same goes for the Arabic as well. I have one daughter that is more excited about languages generally. My older daughter is more excited about learning different languages, whereas my youngest daughter is, she's just along for the ride. She's her own person. She's, the creative, like she loves to bake and all these things, but this really isn't her thing, right? Doesn't mean that she isn't patriotic about, both countries. And by the way, we do the same thing too on our national days of school. Every year I ask them what they want to dress up as, and it's
Yeah.
completely up to them. And to be fair, most of the time it's whatever's accessible, right?
Yeah.
If we have all, the colors that match the German flag, then
Yes.
let's do it. If I bought them the Emirati dress that past Eid and now, they get to wear it again, then great.
Yes.
So it's not, yeah, it's not that deep. Not anymore. In the beginning, I used to feel like very strongly about it.
Mm.
But I was like, the kids really don't care.
Yes,
And I
yes.
don't want
Why are
to
you
push
putting?
on exactly that energy or that narrative, a strong narrative on them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate what you said about, they need to find themselves and,
Mm.
and find out who they are within, right? Without all these labels. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Dunya, what is the future looking like for you here in Dubai?
Ooh, do you know what? I've stopped like setting future plans for myself because one thing that I've learned, and teach their own, right? But one thing that I've learned is, sure, it gives me something to work towards, but really, what is going to happen will happen. I would love to do more public speaking, whether it is at events. Look, essentially, I want to be at home talking on a microphone and making all the money that we need to cover everything that we need.
Yeah.
Okay, there, I said it. But I obviously love doing events. I don't see, what's really next there. I am a single parent, and so I have been toying with the idea of hosting a forum for single parents in the UAE. It is not really something that you easily come by or where there's I guess, enough of a support group, support systems, all these things, or enough awareness on being a single parent. So maybe that's something that I want to start doing more regularly. But it doesn't have to be one definitive thing, you know? I can do a little bit of everything that makes me happy. At the end of the day, if it makes me extra money, then fantastic. If it doesn't, at least I get to do what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you have a podcast as well?
I do not,
Okay.
but watch this space.
Okay. Okay, great.
Not me jumping on board your podcast. No, no, no.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's I love the medium because I think you get to really choose what you want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically listen to podcasts when I'm driving.
Same.
I
Yeah.
I have a long drive, but also like when I'm doing stretches or whatever, just cooking or something like that. I think it's quite interesting to have in the background, and you get to experience so many different ideas,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is great. It's people's journeys
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I'll say probably in the last 3 years, I've become more of an avid reader. And when I can't physically hold a book, then I am listening to a book in the car. And podcasts for me feel like a, less formal, more casual
Right.
learning, I guess, experience. And yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, you get to listen to so many different stories, different perspectives. One thing that I've learned about books. So here's the thing. Remember when I told you my dad put me in that government school, right?
Yes.
And so I kind of was forced or kind of forced myself to read more Arabic so I understood what was going around me, understood what was happening in the classes.
Right.
And Arabic reading is very different to English reading.
How so?
I went through a poetry phase. And so I read beautiful words, really words with really deep meanings behind them, and would come back and talk to my dad about it and just, try and dissect it. And these words, I couldn't find an interpretation for these words in English when I would come back to speak to my dad and try to break it down with him. But I promise you, I'm making a point here. And then when I eventually started or came around to reading English books, right? And I thoroughly encourage reading in our household. The kids can't read a book where there's a movie that's been made of that particular book until they've read the book. So again, you read the book, you get to watch the movie. We're very serious about it like that. We
Good.
read the book and
Good.
then we go watch the play. But when I started reading English books, I took everything as gospel. I thought whatever was in this book was the thing.
Right.
Until I started, coming across concepts that I'm like, I don't know if I actually agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when it hit me that it doesn't necessarily mean it's right. It's just meant to be that person's, obviously if it's a factual book, it's facts. But if it's that person's experience or that person's opinion, I like the feeling of being uncomfortable with a completely different idea. And again, coming back to just my cultural background, pushing the envelope with ideas that were not things that, I was used to hearing in one particular culture versus another, that was just always a state of being, because I always felt like I had so much to learn on either side, which is why I now enjoy reading books where I feel like there is a narrative that's not necessarily mine, but just opens me up to a completely different idea that I wouldn't have come across had I not read this book, had I not listened to this podcast. And so I would say that's probably another major positive to being a third culture kid, where are forced to, and maybe force is not the right word, but where you are regularly put in situations where, you're receiving different perspectives and you cannot be judgmental of that perspective. You have to be open to it.
Yes.
Because you are always learning. Yeah.
Well, Dunya, it's been wonderful to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you.